Sup team, happy Friday. I was shooting a vlog style video today. That will go up tomorrow, but I want to deep dive on something I had a thought about that doesn't make sense in that type of video. And it's about a blog post that I wrote yesterday. Some of you may have read it, some of you haven't, and you don't have to have read it to get this. And if you did read it, I want to go a little bit deeper on one of the caveats that I threw out there. So the post was called Some Unconventional Thoughts on Savings, because we are told and it is beaten into us that saving is a good thing, which is absolutely right. Like having solvency, having money in your bank account, in investments for your future, for like disaster, for vacation, for fun, for like a lot of things, for retirement, for anything. Saving's a good thing. I am already belaboring that point. Bill Perkins, who's a hedge fund manager, super rich dude basically, and play some poker, was on Joe Ingram's podcast that I was listening to, and he said something that like really caught my attention, which was, of people who save, they generally save too much. People who save generally save too much. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I save. I'm like a notorious, 11 years old, caddying at Minnesota Valley Country Club, didn't spend a dime, put everything in a little Altoids tin and like hid it in my room. Like that kind of planned for the worst, cautious mentality. And he was basically saying that if you spend your whole life trying to like make more money to save that money, you don't get anything by having the most at the end. You don't get anything by like having tons of security, millions in the bank when you die. You want to allocate that earnings over the course of your life toward things you love doing, like experiences, or towards people, or towards like charitable causes, or any way you want to spend money, because anything you die with is wasted. Anything you die with, and not completely, like after estate tax you can give money away, I get that, but you don't get to use it exactly how you would have if you used it during your life. And that like really struck a chord with me, because I am super, like I just said, like cautious type A when it comes to saving and planning for worst case scenarios. And I know that I am weird. I know that I'm in the minority of having that mindset. I know that like really liking work and grinding all the time and saving a super, super high percentage of my pre-tax income, like I get that that's weird, but if you are like me, and if you are in the small percent that also has those tendencies, and not, if you're not in that, if you're like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense, I got some credit card debt, I go on vacations and like I spend a good amount of my money, and this isn't good advice for you. But if you're like me, I think it's super, super important advice. Or if you're like some former version of Bill Perkins, or a lot of us, just thinking about earnings as something that you want to properly allocate towards enjoyment or good or whatever it is over the course of your life, because dying with 20 million in the bank and having like very few amazing life experiences versus dying with $1 million in the bank and having 19 million, like adjusted for interest and whatever, over the course of your life, it's way better to be in scenario number 2, right? So just Tim Ferriss also, when Ryan Holiday was promoting his recent book, he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and they talked about a conversation they'd had previously where Ryan was like super stressed about everything, champagne problems because things were going so well in his life, and they got on the subject of money, and I'm butchering this, but basically Ryan kept a spreadsheet of his net worth or his earnings, and like seeing it go up every single month or every single year was very, very important to him. Like from a self-worth point of view or from an ego point of view, whatever it is. And Tim's like, dude, what do you do with that money? He's like, well, it sits on the spreadsheet, and then I invest it, or like, he's not doing anything with it. So if you have adequate savings and like comfortable income going for, like, if you're like me, I just want you to think about like 85, 90-year-old version of yourself, and how you want to live to get to that point, because it was such an aha moment for me, and I don't know exactly what drives me to be such a saver, but it got me thinking a lot, and I have more thinking to do on the subject. But just allocating those resources over the course of your life towards experiences and things you want to do, rather than saving it all up for what? For nothing, for the government to get 30 or 40 or 50% of, or whatever. So that's it. I'll link the post somewhere around here. Appreciate you guys watching. If this wasn't relevant, tomorrow's video will be more relevant.